It's Wednesday, June 26, 2019. Coming up on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Guess what? A crazy-ass white man harasses two black women who were just chilling by the pool, follows them for a full mile. One of those sisters is here to tell her story right here on Roland Martin Unfiltered. The NBA, they will not use the word owner anymore. We'll tell you about that. But guess what? One of their owners, she says, I'm going to still use owner. Stacey Abrams tells Congress to reinstate the Voting Rights Act, a key part of the Voting Rights Act that was thrown out by the U.S. Supreme Court 7 years ago. Also, Chicago police released video of Jussie Smollett wearing a noose. What's up with that? Also, a woman tries to shame a man napping in the McDonald's, but the community shames her instead. And Wayfair employees walk out to protest the company selling beds to migrant camps. And also, CNN, guess what? They've decided to actually name two black people to senior leadership posts. Isn't it amazing that happened after NABJ called them out? Yeah, I'll tell you all about it. It's time to bring the funk on Roland Martin Unfiltered. Let's go.
He's got it. Whatever the biz, he's on it. Whatever it is, he's got the scoop, the fact, the find. And when it breaks, he's right on time. And it's rolling. Best believe he's knowing. Putting it down from sports to news to politics. With entertainment just for kicks, he's rolling. It's on go, y'all. It's Roland Martin, yeah. Rolling with Roland now. He's funky, he's fresh, he's real, the best, you know he's Roland Martin now.
All right, folks. Time for another crazy-ass white person.
No charcoal grills are allowed.
I'm white. I got you, huh?
Illegally selling water without a permit
On my property.
Whoa! Hey! I'm uncomfortable.
All right, y'all. White guy in Maryland called the police on two separate groups of black women who were at an apartment complex. It happened at the swimming pool inside of the Addition Apartments in Hyattsville, Maryland. It took place this weekend. Here's Poolside Nick in action.
Still recording.
Physically attacked by this woman.
Physically attacked? By who?
He said these women earlier, now it's this woman. What's your story, baby?
Because I haven't touched anybody.
Oh, really?
Yes.
I've never
I
touched
thought
you.
were recording. I'm sorry.
That's funny, because your
I would've
video
been
is going to be a
more
bunch of
careful,
lies. White people love to lie on black women.
White people, literally, this dude left his apartment. He left. I'm racist! Black. Actually, you can't get arrested for being racist, because you're still out here.
Come on. I didn't know black people can be racist.
Black people cannot be racist. Y'all
Okay.
literally rape and steal people from land.
Okay.
So shut the fuck up.
Still recording. I'm in my
This
bikini.
man been following us for over a...
Well, then Poolside Nick posted his own video accusing these sisters of assault.
This is too much. This is fucking harassment. Please give me
The guy, El Claude. Now, here's what's crazy here. First of all, so Poolside Nick, he said that that was a rule against using glass bottles by a pool. He decided to play George Zimmerman and be the cops. Joining us right now is Gael Claude, who is one of the sisters in that video. So, Gael, glad to have you in Roland Martin Unfiltered.
Hi, hello everyone. So I'm glad that you were able to make the connection with Trayvon Martin, because I feel that on the whole way, home, just thinking about what we went through. I lived in Florida for a while, for most of my life, I guess. And that's all I was thinking about. It's the fact that, I'm sorry, it's just taking a while for me to get this out, but we, as people of color, everything we do is a crime. We were at the Addition apartment to sign our lease. We spoke to a leasing agent. We got there at 1:30. We toured the place. We fell in love with it. Everything was perfectly fine. The leasing agent invited us back to, enjoy, just kind of get a feel of the complex before we actually move in, which we were actually really excited about because not many places will allow you to do that. So just as I told in my caption on Twitter, we were by the pool. We were just enjoying the weather. Before I brought out the bottle, I did ask the lifeguard if it was permissible around the pool, because I do know that certain areas will not allow you to have glassware and whatnot. And the lifeguard was perfectly fine with it. Randomly, I caught Nicholas staring down from his balcony, which at first was okay because, I mean, that's normal. That's his place of residence. I didn't find that weird. It went on for a few minutes. Then I started feeling uncomfortable. Honestly, I wasn't thinking anything. And like I said, I know a lot of people have been saying Black people can't be racist. You literally cannot oppress the oppressor. So no, Black people cannot be racist. I wasn't thinking about color. I just waved just to let him know we're aware of his creepy actions.
Well, yeah. So I mean, look, you're by the pool, and both of you are there. Both of you are in bikinis. You're enjoying yourself. You have some wine there. You're trying to chill, and I don't care who you are. If some dude is staring at you constantly, you're like, what the hell is up with this guy? So he was watching you from his apartment, and then he decided. Did he yell anything towards y'all, or did he simply come downstairs and approach the two of you?
Well, that's the part that I guess that I couldn't put onto my tweet because you can use so many letters.
Well, don't worry about it. First of all, we got time. Don't worry about Twitter. Go ahead.
Okay. So after I waved, him and his husband, Brian Star Street, they were both on the balcony. I saw him going inside, so I thought it was done with. Again, I wasn't thinking anything of it. Then he came back out and he was like, lifeguard, these people down here, they have glassware. They are not allowed to be on this property, blah, blah, blah. And my first thought was like, how do you know we don't live here? And there was a couple grilling. There was there was a few kids in the pool. They were Hispanic, and another group of guys. They were playing dominoes and all of that. So my whole thing was like, okay, this is getting weird. It's getting weird. It's getting unsafe. So after he shouted all that stuff, it started like being a scene, and people were coming out of their apartment. It was just honestly like starting to be embarrassing. Right. So I'm a very vocal person. So I was just like, okay, well, if you feel so strongly about it, just come grab the bottle, and that's just going to be that. He came back. He went back into his apartment. He came back out with his cell phone and started recording. That's when it got really weird. And I'm like, at any point, did management from the complex, did anybody call them? Did anybody call security? What was the lifeguard doing? No.
So everybody's watching. The
lifeguard actually.
Go ahead.
No, the lifeguard actually went and talked to him, and he was like, yeah, like that's perfectly fine. They asked me if they could have the bottle, like everything is okay. So the lifeguard tells Nick it's fine, but Nick still wants to play cop. Yeah, and then he goes back into his apartment. He grabs his phone, then he starts recording. Like, I'm going to take this to lease. They have to see this. You guys are breaking the rules, whatever. After that happened, he went back inside once again. And what did he do? Oh, he went back in. So I thought that was done for. I'm like, okay, what is he going to do? Like, report it to the lease office. They literally told us we could be here. So I wasn't thinking anything of it. Right. Randomly, a door comes open on the side of the pool. And he's like, on the YouTube clip, you could see he's like walking up to me, and I'm telling him the whole time, like, get out of my face, get out of my face, get out of my face. And he would not stop. And then that's when I, smacked the phone out of his hand. And of course, as a typical, they like to play the victim. he started saying that I assaulted him. And I mean, you can literally tell on the clip
Right.
that his phone fell and then he picked it up.
So we just played that particular video there. So after that happens, y'all decide, you know what?
And I was just like, this is too much. We just need to leave.
So y'all decide to leave. And then, so you leave the property, then he starts following you.
Yes. So we decided to leave. And then the lifeguard, there were a group of guys who were trying to get him to stop. But, I mean, I don't know what happened with that. The lifeguard was also trying to get him to stop. Not really sure what happened. I was just worried about my safety and my friend's safety.
And the video we're playing right now, Gael, is that, are you walking in a parking lot?
Yes.
So you walk in the parking lot.
We're walking in the parking lot of Home Depot.
Wait, hold up. So y'all have left the apartment complex.
Yes. So when things started escalating, I was just like, okay, we should leave. So as we're leaving, he tells his husband, Brian, he's like, call the police, call the police. They're fleeing the scene. There's literally no scene. Like, there's nothing
Fleeing
going
the
on.
scene?
He said, we're fleeing the scene. I cannot make this up. The Lord is listening. Yeah, those were his exact words. So we're walking outside the complex. It's a pretty wide complex. So it took a while to get out. And as we're walking out, he's like, oh, I'm going to get this on camera. I'm going to get this on camera, which is very, it's hysterical that he would post a 16-second video when he was recording for a while. I'd say about 15 minutes.
So wait a minute. So y'all are walking for at least 15 minutes. He is behind you the entire time?
The entire time. So we started walking towards a complex called Altera, which is where Bria lives.
So wait, hold on, wait 1 second. Y'all at one apartment complex. You walk past the Home Depot, and you're going to another apartment complex, and this dude
which is where Bria lives.
And this dude is still behind you. And
He's still behind us.
Is he on the phone with police? Who is he talking to on the phone? His husband or?
So here is what happened. As we're walking towards the apartment complex, I started thinking, I'm like, no, we can't walk home because, I mean, like, we can't do that. We didn't know what he had on him. We just didn't know. So I was just like, let's cross the street and go into the Home Depot. So we were walking into the Home Depot, and like, we're crossing the street, we're into traffic, and I'm yelling to everyone. I'm like, this white man is following us, get him to stop. Like, he's been harassing us, and no
one helps.
No one's even looking. No one even looked twice. So I'm sorry. Like, that's really a...
No, I understand. Take your time.
I just kept thinking about the fact that this man could have had anything on him. He called the cops for no apparent reason. We weren't trespassing. There was no reason. So when we were in the Home Depot parking lot, which is where the clip was filmed, the one that I posted on my Twitter, he's, going off. He stopped recording, of course, to call the cops again to let them know, oh, these women assaulted me. He couldn't even get his story together. So I walked into the Home Depot, and I'm just like, okay, like, somebody please help. Like, there has to be security in here. This man won't stop following us. And that's when they called security. But by the time security got there, the cops that he called showed up. I'm very angry about the whole cop situation because
take your time.
When the cop showed up, he did the whole he said, she said thing, of course. And I hate to pull like the race card, but clearly it was a race thing, because if it was a couple of Caucasian women walking and a black man was following them, no questions would have been asked. The guy would have just gotten arrested. So when the cop came, he listened to our side of the story. He listened to Nick's side of the story. He asked us, oh my God, he asked for us to exchange information because Nick claimed that he got assaulted and we claimed we were being...
Exchange information. This is not a car accident.
Exactly.
So if
exactly my point.
if he
So
said he got assaulted, I mean, the law says that you go in, file a police report saying I was assaulted. You don't exchange it. You don't exchange information.
I think the cop was just playing like the whole like good cop game. He didn't want to get involved, so he asked us to exchange information, which is where Bria works as a paralegal, and I also work in a legal setting, so we know our rights. So
Right.
we're like, there's no reason to give our information. And he asked for our
Right.
ID.
Why in the hell am I
With
gonna
our
give the guy
address on it, our date of birth?
Right. So here's
So I'm just like,
so here's what you need to understand.
I mean,
I've seen the statement from the apartment complex. We also now see the tweets from Nick, some very racist tweets that he's also sent out. What now? Anything police dealing with him? Is the apartment complex? Do they plan on doing anything to him? Do you plan
so
on?
the funny thing is, you know, everything happens for a reason. I strongly believe that everything happens for a reason. We called the complex to tell them what happened, and originally I called on Monday first thing in the morning. I called, and they said, okay, come in whenever you can, blah blah blah, we'll talk to you. Then I received a call again, and the lady, the person that called me, she was like, well, you know, instead of coming in, why don't you write a statement and you can come in on Tuesday, at 1 p.m. So I don't know what changed, but I was like, okay, makes sense. I'll get all my proofs together. In the meantime, so many people were writing me, telling me they experienced the same thing with him. So I'm like, okay, perfect. I'll use all of this evidence just to kind of
one second.
push.
So 1 second. So after you posted this on social media, other people reached out to you and said that they have had similar experiences with him in this same apartment complex.
Yes.
And when
about 4 to 5 people
and
within that one day.
And when you now, I take it you passed it on to the apartment managers. What did they say?
So, when I called, exactly, the lady called me back, and when things like that happen and you receive a phone call, you're expecting things to work in your favor, especially when you know you haven't done anything wrong. The lady's first question was, how did you find out about our apartment? I'm like, I'm disgusted with them because they're worried about their publicity. Why do you care about where I found out about the apartment when in reality this could have turned into a homicide? I mean, how many times do black people, they're just minding their black business and a white person says something and the next thing you know, there's a black person on the pavement dead. So I'm like, well, maybe you would have liked the publicity if I were just dead on your pavement. Like, I mean, seriously. So, they said that they've been working with them. I've been talked to them a few times today.
Right.
They're, according to this is what they're saying. I don't trust these people, but they said that they've been trying to get him out of the complex. But according to the law, there are a few things that they need to do. They're expecting to have him.
I'm trying to understand. Hold up. If somebody's in the apartment complex harassing other people, I don't think it's too hard to try to get somebody out, especially if they're doing the harassing. Final question for you. Did they even call in the lifeguard to say you were there? Can you tell us what happened?
I actually don't know what happened to the lifeguard, but I must say that yesterday when I went to talk to them in person, the leasing agent denied us being there. She said she doesn't even know how we got to the pool, when in reality, she gave us they have like a card that's like their key. She gave us the key to get there.
Whoa. I'm sorry.
Mm-hmm.
The leasing agent
who invited us back.
Who invited you back, who gave you a card key to access the pool, then denied she even knew y'all existed?
Yes, she did. And you know what? I said, I'm not even going to argue this.
Wow.
This apartment is only a year old, so I know you guys have cameras everywhere. Just watch your footage. She gave us a tour. We toured room 160 at 1:30 on Sunday. So I'm just, that part, I was not even arguing it because I'm like, you have it on footage.
Have you reached out to the owner of this apartment complex, the company that owns it?
I did. I spoke to him today.
And what did he say?
It sounds like he's been doing his best to get Nicholas along with Brian evicted.
No. Hold on. I got that. I understand that. What the hell is he gonna do about this leasing agent?
Oh, so that part, he said that he's been dealing with them and talking to them. There was no real information that was disclosed in regards to that. But I did tell him that his
check your cameras.
Exactly. His property manager with the assistant, they have called me and Bria to still ask us if we're moving in. And it's
whoa, time out. The leasing agent said y'all didn't even know y'all existed. Now they still want y'all to move in.
Yep. Yes. That is exactly what happened. So I think it's blatantly disrespectful. It is just rude.
Right.
There's no word to describe. Do they really? I mean, why would I give them my black behind dollars after they allowed that to happen? Like, no, I have no interest.
Gael Claude, we appreciate you joining us, sharing us with your story. It is certainly an experience you did not want to have to go through, but we thank you for sharing with our audience.
Thank you so much.
All right, keep us updated on what's going to happen. I want to go to our panel. I want to go to our panel right now. Michael Brown, former Vice Chair, DNC Finance Committee. Dr. Niambi Carter, Department of Political Science, Howard University. Niambi, I'm going to start with you. And this is the thing that, just like yesterday, we had the sister on who came out of the subway and these cops were accosting three juvenile boys who did not do what they were stopping them for. This is what white folks don't understand. You just trying to live your black life. Right. And you got some white boy in this apartment complex who decides to play cop and literally accost them. And they're having to explain why they were there. It's crazy.
Well, I mean, he stalked them is what he did.
Yes.
And not only that, the number of times he went in and out, that's a threat. Getting in her personal space, that's a threat. And for what? It was not any of your business. You were not the rule enforcer. And I think what's more insulting than anything is the fact that he used his autism as a defense for his racism. I've never heard that leap. But he made it seem like, oh, this rule violation is just sort of a tick of my condition, and so I had to just.
How about you go sit your ass down in your apartment and that, Michael, is really the reason we have this segment, crazy ass white people. White folks can't mind their own damn business. The white woman who lost it when a car was 2 inches into the walkway threatened to call the cops. The white woman in Oakland, the brother was barbecuing, I'm calling the cops. The little black girl in the Bay Area selling some lemonade, white woman, you got to have a permit, she called the cops. The white woman in River Oaks in Houston, the black woman is pushing a stroller on the sidewalk, and this fool, you can't be blocking the sidewalk. Ain't nobody else out here, and you tripping about the sidewalk. What you have is, I'm using George Zimmerman for a reason, because it's white folks who are walking around acting as if they are the cops, the judge, the jury, and they see it as our job is to keep you Negroes in line.
And that's, and you and I, we've talked about this. I love this segment. We've talked about this, I don't know how many times, but 45 has empowered folks to act this way. They feel they can act this way. That's why I would love, I don't know if your staff has done a percentage on, because you've been very successful when you show these white folks lose their jobs. I don't know what your percentage rate is now. It's pretty high, but he needs to lose his.
Oh, right. Look, him and his husband need to get kicked the hell out of the apartment complex.
And I've been following this on Twitter since yesterday when this video first came up, and people have already contacted folks' employers. They have added all of their employers. They have shown other videos, because this man has a YouTube page where he has put these women's names, both of their names. He's done this to a black man where he had his license plate number shown. I mean, this guy's a menace. He is a routine abuser. He's a serial offender, and he goes after black people. I mean, his autism clearly only works when he sees black folks. So he is the real problem here, and I feel horrible that what should have been a joyous moment, a sort of momentous occasion in a young person's life, getting your apartment and doing all these things, was turned into this really ugly, scary event. And this man right now is still living in his apartment in the addition, who is clearly in cover their butt modes and trying to disavow all knowledge of these women, which I don't even understand, when they've done nothing but enjoy the hospitality of the leasing agent. They weren't there breaking any laws. They don't have any trespassing charges. They weren't doing anything other than being someplace that this white man didn't want them to be. And he's done it to other black folks at this same property. He's done it to, I mean, people were just commiserating online about how often this guy has done this to people. He's done stuff in Seattle. I mean, this man is a habitual line stepper.
And speaking of Seattle, I remember there was some white man who approached this brother who worked at FedEx. And he rolled up on him, and the brother knocked his ass out, and homeboy died. He had some kind of condition. Oh, he died. And I keep saying this. I'm telling you, white people, y'all keep doing this to black people. One of y'all gonna get shot in the face, get run over by a car, because you're gonna come up against the wrong black person who is not gonna be calm, who is not going to take it, you know, in a mild way, who's not gonna try to defuse the situation. And I'm telling you, Michael, that's going to happen. One of these stories is going to end in a tragic way because these nosy white folks cannot mind their own damn business.
And I think, is it Gael? Is that her name? Gael.
Yeah.
The point she made was excellent. She said, can you imagine, switch everything around. Mm-hmm. Two white women walking down the street with a brother with a camera.
Absolutely.
We all know what would have happened.
Ain't no way in hell.
And they were asking for assistance along the way, along this mile. And I know exactly where they are. It's a well-traveled place. It's the middle of the day. There are people around, and they are asking for help along the way. And no one even intervened and said, hey, can we call the police on your behalf because you're being harassed?
But here's the thing, and again, this is the thing that we dealt with yesterday, the sister who was on. Mm-hmm. First of all, the brother who intervened with those juvenile boys spent 2 days in jail. Yep. She said, I feared for my life that also I might go to jail, I might lose my job, all sort of stuff. And so again, what happens is psychologically for us is, now if I intervene, all of a sudden my whole life can now get turned over. Or depending on what happened with these cops, hell, I might end up getting shot.
That's right.
And that's also that trauma that we also, I think, have to deal with. And so people, and this is what I think what white folks don't understand, what it means to be black. What it means, even if you are an African American with means, when you're being stopped by cops and being asked, is this your Rolls Royce? Is this your Mercedes? Is this your Lexus? As if we can't own those things. This is the reality about being black in America that they have no idea about. And so this was just two sisters trying to buy a pool.
Well, this is how whiteness gets weaponized, right? I mean, these people this man was using the police as his own personal bouncer.
Precisely.
Right? Move these black people out of my way.
Or
see them.
Or the case in Chicago, where the white boy at Walgreens calls his friend, a former security guard, and he literally comes there, shoots and kills this sister.
Yep.
She's dead, and again, because they accuse her of shoplifting.
Right, and this is not your job, right? This is not what you do. And even if it was shoplifting, you mean to tell me this corporation can't recover whatever small item she took, and that's not an executable offense.
Not a proportional response.
Right, precisely.
Not. But she's black, right? And so, of course, black women are beyond being damsels, right? We never need protection. We never need saving. We never need assistance. And this is the kind of thing that Gael and her friend Bria unfortunately had to experience. And I am thankful these young women are alive, intact, not in jail, not in the ground right now, because that could have very well happened.
Hear about that? Expose everything that fool has said. Oh, yeah. Everything. I hope he loses everything he has. All right, so we'll go to our next story, folks. Well, the NBA, probably the most progressive of all sports leagues out there, they have decided that they're no longer going to use the term owner. Some people say that's an issue because you have largely African Americans on the court, and it brings up slave connotations. So the question is, does that make sense? And again, NBA is 75% black. And they're saying owner doesn't sit too well. The NBA commissioner, Adam Silver, had this to say about this issue.
I got to ask you. So the 76ers owner moved away from the term owner and now goes managing partner, right? Do you see that happening more in the NBA? Do you like the idea that moving away from that term owner?
I do. I don't want to overreact to the term because, as I said earlier, people end up twisting themselves into knots, avoiding the use of the word owner. But we moved away from that term years ago with the league. We call our team owners the governor of the team and alternate governors. But so I think it makes sense. As I said, I don't want to overreact, and you'll find the word throughout memos over the past decade in the NBA, but I'm sensitive to it, and I think to the extent teams are moving away from the term, we'll stick with using governor.
Now, the owner of the New Orleans Pelicans, who also owns the New Orleans Saints, she has said she's going to stick calling herself an owner. Well, let's see what Zion Williamson has to say about that. Joining us right now is Raina Kelly. She's the managing editor for The Undefeated. Raina, just your thoughts on this issue here. Adam Silver clearly listens to his black ball players and their thoughts on this issue.
He does, and that's important because from a point of racial trauma, and we're all dealing with the racial trauma of We Were Five, of Central Park Five, owner has a meaning that is very important and not good for black people and for black players. Nobody wants to be owned. Obviously, that's a sensitivity. And I think Adam made exactly the right move.
And what we also are dealing with, again, is a change in phraseology and also this reaction. Let's also remember, this is also the NBA, where you had Donald Sterling, who Adam Silver kicked out of the NBA because he truly ran the Clippers like a plantation.
I agree with you. Here's what I think is the issue is, and I think this transcends basketball and goes to all sports, where you own a team. You own a team, which means you own certain trademark rights, you own certain rights to have you do not own players. And while it is fine for certain individuals to mix that up from a verbal point of view, for many African Americans, virtually all the ones I know, including myself, the idea of being owned is not something that is comfortable for us. You know that.
Oh, absolutely. And I think what you also, again, you also are seeing that by doing this, it also causes the folks who actually run these teams to not see themselves as essentially, you're my property. I think back when LeBron James left the Cleveland Cavaliers and Dan Gilbert pretty much had this reaction of like, how dare you leave when he had the damn right to leave.
Well, I mean, that's a fascinating concept, right? And that goes beyond words. I know it's very common in our self-care, namaste kind of world to say, change a word, change a thought. It's not as simple as all of that. So you can take the word owner out of everybody's vocabulary. However, the idea that you own not just a team, but everybody who plays for it and thus their destinies is going to remain whatever word you use. What needs to be different is the idea that an individual player, just like an individual employee of any company anywhere, can go and do what they choose. You're not owned by anybody.
All right, Raina Kelly with The Undefeated. I appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Thank you.
What do y'all think about this?
I actually don't. I mean, I agree with her in the sense that unless we change the way that people see these players and are not trying to interfere with their individual agency and their own conscience and in their ability to speak their political conscience, then it's important. But if you still treat people like you own them, changing the name from owner to governor won't really have much effect. And you know, I'm sort of, you know, not impressed by the decline in the use of the term in the NBA.
I probably agree with the doctor on that. You know, first of all, the players are under contract. They're not owned anyway. But you do have to respect and understand the difference in cultures in each league. Mm-hmm. The NFL ownership would never change their name.
Right. Oh, hell no.
They would never do it.
The NFL is the absolute closest
that will be.
to this. No. First of all, how they operate is, no, we own your ass. That's how they think. That's how they operate. We tell you what to do. You don't tell us what to do.
Right. And I think the idea that I am paying you, so then you do belong to me, right? They don't view it necessarily as a wage, right? But perhaps as a price you pay to own someone. Now, these are very handsomely compensated people, so I don't want to push that slavery analogy too far. But I do think to the extent that owners view the salaries not as payment for your skill, right, to be on this team, they view it as, oh, I bought you a person. It's like, no, we have agreed to enter into some kind of rental agreement until I can find some better place, or you can find a better player.
Well, but the reality is, though, and I think here's the part of the problem. I think if we can have this conversation in present day, but if you take this thing back, that phrase in sports leagues. You go back to Major League Baseball and even the White Sox scandal, okay, how the owner of that team disrespected and treated his ball players. I'm not giving you raises. And so I get it. The NBA, I think what they're doing is smart. Frankly, you can call them CEOs or whatever. I have no issue with what the NBA is doing. I think absolutely what they're doing is, as Raina said, when you change a phrase, change a word, it also does indeed change the meaning. And unfortunately, with some of these professional teams, you have folks who truly act like, no, I own you. I control you. And again, were not for Curt Flood in Major League Baseball, the reserve clause, teams owned you. You had no options. And in fact, folks were even making the argument about the NBA. In fact, here's what's interesting. Fans love sports, but in every single sport, you don't have control of where you work. Yeah. Every sport has a draft. You are unless you force a change, like Eli Manning did when he said, I'm not going to San Diego, or like John Elway did when he forced a change. I think it was, I'm not going to the Colts. Pretty much is, whoever drafts you, they got you.
No, I mean,
that's what's also, I think, bothersome by some people.
Yeah, I don't think it's by any mistake that they use these languages of draft and trading and all this other kind of language that is very reminiscent of a enslaved.
No. If you want to see the slave thing, go to the NFL Combine.
Well, right, for sure. Where people perform.
No, not perform.
Measured
no. You walk in your underwear.
Oh, I know. I've seen it.
And they are looking at you.
And they make you run.
And they looking at your stomach, your body. I mean, it's the closest to a auction, slave auction block, Michael.
As you can get. Well, but I think we can also, in this era of 45, it's also important to commend somebody in leadership that said, you know what, I'm taking a stance. It's not right. We're changing the name. But again, whether it's a big deal or not. And I know you mentioned
the behavior has to change.
Commissioner
with
Silver
the name.
has to be commended.
Yeah, the name and the change have to be commensurate with your behavior.
Correct.
Go again. Change the damn name. I'm good with it. All right, going to a break right now. We'll be back at Roland Martin Unfiltered. You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's YouTube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. Hey, fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. All right, folks, they're back. MarijuanaStock.org has another great investment opportunity. If you were lucky enough to invest in the last crowdfunding campaign, you know they raised a bunch of money in just a few months investing in legal marijuana farms. Those initial investors now own shares of a publicly traded company. They are certainly on fire. Now they have a new investment opportunity that is as good, if not even better, than the last. I'm talking about industrial hemp CBD. For those who don't know, the hemp plant is the cousin to marijuana with a much higher concentration of CBD. which means hemp CBD gives you all the medical benefits of marijuana without getting you high. Until recently, hemp farming was practically illegal in the U.S. and heavily regulated by the DEA. However, the 2018 Farm Bill changed all of that, making it legal to grow hemp CBD in the U.S. and creating one of the largest commodities worldwide. They need land to grow all the plants, which makes for an incredible investment opportunity. And that's where our good friends at 420 Real Estate come in. Their business model is simple. They buy land that supports hemp CBD grow operations and lease it to licensed, high-paying tenants. That's right, they are hemp CBD landlords, and you can get in on the action. You can invest in this crowdfunding campaign for as little as $200 up to $10,000, something that you may not want to miss out on. Go to marijuanastock.org. That's marijuanastock.org to get in the game and to do it now. All right, folks, let's talk about voting rights. Stacey Abrams has been really focused on this issue since, even before she ran for governor, but certainly since she lost to Brian Kemp there, where there were some serious issues when it came to voting. Well, she appeared before Congress yesterday, urging them to fully reinstate a portion of the Voting Rights Act, which the Supreme Court struck down. That decision opened the floodgates for massive voter suppression that we've seen all across the country. Abrams urged lawmakers to address the issue on the 6th anniversary of the Shelby County v. Holder, the 2013 Supreme Court ruling that struck down a key section of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. Here's part of her testimony.
One of the most pernicious effects of Shelby can be found in the very act of casting a vote. Section 5 provided an effective check against hyper-local suppressive tactics like excessive poll closures or challenge proceedings against voters of color, as occurred in Georgia in 2015. Of 159 counties in Georgia, 156 counties removed the highest rate of voters from the rolls post-Shelby, which resulted in an increase in the number of voters being forced to cast provisional ballots. Last election cycle, separate federal courts ruled against Georgia policies for rejecting absentee ballots and ballot applications under trivial pretenses, for implementing an inconsistent provisional ballot system, and for improperly disallowing access to translators in the polling booth. While these lawsuits brought remedy to some, thousands more may have faced similar discrimination without the resources or the knowledge to gain relief. Post-Shelby, voting rights groups must too often rely on resource-intensive litigation and advocacy work to protect the fundamental right to vote for voters of color. This anti-voting system has the concomitant effect of harming taxpayers, as states must expend tax dollars to defend voter suppression in court. At the end of the 2018 contest, I acknowledge the legal result of an election marred by widespread election irregularities. I also redoubled my commitment to voting rights through the creation of Fair Fight Action, which has filed a federal lawsuit against the Georgia electoral system, asking for Georgia's pre-clearance requirement to be reinstated under Section 3. The proposed Voting Rights Advancement Act and Voting Rights Amendment Act represent considerable progress towards restoring the power of the Voting Rights Act, including modern-day protections that require nationwide pre-clearance to attack the broad reach of voter suppression. I strongly urge Congress to take action today, and I thank you for the opportunity to address this committee.
Now, look what's happening in Florida, where buried inside of their voting law, they have something dealing with that voting locations must provide sufficient non-permitted parking to accommodate the anticipated amount of voters. One group, they say that's specifically targeting colleges. Under that previous section of the Voting Rights Act, any law passed in Florida would have had to have been pre-cleared by the Department of Justice. Dr. Carter, this is, again, Republicans were absolutely waiting on this. They were waiting for the Supreme Court to rule, and literally the moment the court ruled, they rushed a series of voter ID laws, massive voter suppression all across the country.
Absolutely. I mean, this was their opening. And the thing about the Supreme Court provision is it doesn't tell Congress that they can't come up with a new formula. Congress has just decided that they're not going to, effectively gutting the Voting Rights Act and allowing all of these shenanigans to go on in North Carolina and Michigan, Wisconsin, Ohio, you name it. Every place had some form of voter ID to attack, you know, allegedly voter fraud, which doesn't really exist, doesn't really occur. But surprise, surprise, most of the people they go after and most of the people that are harmed are black and brown communities, poor communities. So you had ramped up efforts at voter ID. You had exact match in Georgia, which was catastrophic for black voters in that state. I mean, something as small as a hyphen could have your whole voter registration invalidated in that state. And it is no wonder why that election was stolen from Stacey Abrams. But this kind of stuff is happening all over. And we know that Republicans thought about this, and they thought long and hard about all the ways in which they could suppress black voters.
And Michael, it's not just black folks. It was a white guy who sued in Ohio when they removed his name from the voting rolls by saying, well, he had not voted in a couple of elections. He went to the Supreme Court. He actually lost that case, which allowed for them to remove folks from the voting rolls if you had not voted in a previous election. Then they said, well, we sent a notice, as if a person will actually have seen that notice. And you have Democrats who are trying to wake up on this on the state level. And that's the real issue. What Democrats have done is I believe, the mistake they've made, they've solely focused on the federal level. Now, after the 2012 midterm elections, when they got 2010 midterm elections, when they got thumped, then all of a sudden they realized, oh, hell, we got to get serious. It's on the state level. In Ohio, Alicia Reese has been trying to get this ballot initiative put on the ballot that would guarantee the right to vote, that would basically end this crap every single year where you're having to file suits. And what's interesting is progressive groups, Democrats, won't fund the damn initiative.
Well, first of all, Stacey Abrams is an extremely impressive person. I mean, she's just fabulous. I love the work she's doing. But we've had an opportunity for some odd reason, and we know the reason, but, the Voting Rights Act should be permanent. This is not something that should come up every
First, it shouldn't even be a damn need for a specific act.
Of course not. It's ridiculous.
I mean, that's first.
But we've had two opportunities over the last 25 years. In Clinton's first term, you had the House and the Senate. Obama's first term had the House and the Senate. So we've had opportunities to try to make it permanent, but of course it wasn't a priority, and we'll get to it. And then, of course, you lose the midterms, and then you can't get to it.
And then you have Red Map, right, where Republicans were paying attention, and for relatively little money, they flipped state legislatures across this country to make these really horrific changes, right? And because elections are really ran by states and not the federal government, that's where you really need to really have this momentum happening.
But the other thing is, I also keep telling civil rights groups, I said this, I moderated a panel that was 2 years ago, Congressional Black Caucus, and so it was Leadership Conference for Civil and Human Rights. It was Cheryl Eiffel, NAACP, LDF, the California Secretary of State. It was NAACP, all different groups up there. Leon Russell for the NAACP. I said, y'all got to start communicating this to white folks. This bill is specifically intended to ensure young white voters on college campuses don't vote. In 2012, there was a white clerk in Wisconsin who said she moved an early voting location off of a college campus because too many of them were voting Democrat. and they other places, they actually Ohio, when they struck it, and what they started doing was they started limiting. Okay, well, only one location. Yeah. Then they would choose a place that was far out with a small parking lot. Then, of course, we saw in Wisconsin. The voter ID law, which did get approved by the Obama Department of Justice, but then even though it gotten approved, Scott Walker's office dragged their feet. Federal judge called him in and say, "Why in the hell are y'all so slow to even issue the licenses?" What I keep trying to tell the civil rights groups is, y'all got to start saying to white folks, this ain't just about us. They don't want, if you young and white, they don't want you voting. If you are older and white, and you are center left, they don't want you voting. And I'm like, you have to do that as well so they can wake the hell up and say, damn, it's not just about us. Because in Maine, Republicans, again, how dastardly they are, they got rid of same-day voter registration. Nobody asked for it. The voters came back 2 years later, put it back on the ballot, and it passed by almost 70%. They said, look, we ain't tell y'all to do this here.
Right. But, I mean, you saw this in North Carolina with students at Appalachian State, right? A largely predominantly white institution where the students realized this when they were trying to get someone out that was too progressive in that district in Asheville. But I think, when you see this kind of stuff, and Rep. Sewell has been pushing this with the Voter Rights, Voter Rights Advancement Act, right? That we can replace this, right? We can have a formula. We can come up with one. We can use a really common sense one. Don't try to take people voting rights away, and you won't be a covered jurisdiction. And that's largely sort of what this formula was. I mean, it had more numbers to it, but that's essentially what it was. And it wasn't just states in the Deep South. It was places in the West, because we had things happening with Native American voting rights. We have stuff happening with Latino voting rights. It's about, you know, all of these kinds of people who are having their lives affected by these really terrible decisions.
All right, folks, in Chicago, police released hundreds of files and nearly 70 hours of video footage on Monday from the investigation into Jussie Smollett's claim back in January that he was attacked by two men. In one of the videos, police body cam footage shows Smollett with his face blurred, wearing a white rope that he told detectives his attackers looped around his neck.
Is there anything inside the apartment? Okay.
So I explained to them how you were going to get something in. And the reason I'm calling because...
Okay. Do you want to take it off or anything?
Yeah, I do. I just want y'all to see.
72 Robert. Shows transport one female official detention.
Bleach on me. They put bleach on me.
Okay.
1872 Robert.
You're filming us, right?
Yeah, this is all being audibly and visually recorded.
It's in his house. They're filming you. Like audio. I guess when they didn't know they were walking into the house. Okay, so can we turn it off?
Yeah, you're giving us permission to shut it off.
All right, folks, and also just another reason for us to pretty much say the hell with Fayetteville. Check this out. This is crazy. White woman in McDonald's decides to post a photo of a black man who's homeless sleeping on the bench. This is what she tweeted. There's another reason for me to leave Fayetteville. I was at the McDonald's in the middle of town, and I saw this guy sleeping in the booth. I go and tell an employee that someone is asleep in their booth, and her response was, "Oh, yeah, we know, it's okay." And I said, "Not really, but whatever." Well, guess what? Folks in that town came to this brother's aid. Now he's no longer homeless. See, white folks gonna learn to stop posting. See, remember the woman here in D.C. who posted the photo of the black woman who was eating, lost a book deal, lost the book deal, lost the publisher, lost a literary agent. Again, white folks, mind y'all own damn business.
I mean, this young man, you didn't know his story. You didn't know anything about him. And to try to embarrass him publicly, and I think that's the pernicious thing about social media. You took a picture with him without his permission. You posted it and basically said, "Look at this lazy Negro laying around here." You didn't know this man's story. The employees weren't bothered. He wasn't bothering anybody. There was nobody around. Mind your business. Get your food. You could have ate your food quietly. Now, luckily, fortunately, this young man was able to see some bright side out of this, but he's a young father, he's working, and this is also something about having a living wage in this country, that it's a terrible thing that this young man can go to work every day and can't afford a place to live.
I co-sign on everything the doctor just said.
All right, folks. All right, employees of the online retailer Wayfair protested the company selling beds to micro-detention camps with a walkout today. The protest took place in Boston, where Wayfair is based. The employees say they don't want the company to profit off of children being in concentration camps. Speaking of that, folks, there's been this photo that's been going all around, the photo and the video, of a man and his daughter who dead after trying to cross a river. It has been a stunning story. I won't be shocked at all that it comes up in tonight's Democratic debate. In just a moment, folks, let me know when y'all have Mark Thompson. Mark Thompson, of course, is in Miami, and he's ready. So we're going to go to Mark right now. Mark, how you doing?
Just fine. Can you all see and hear me okay?
We can hear you just fine. You're in Miami right now. Of course, the Democrats are going to have their debate tonight. There's no doubt that video and that photo of that man and his daughter dead, lying on their stomach, that's going to be, I think, a huge part in tonight's debate, talking about Trump's policies on the border.
Yeah, I agree. And it shows just how callous and insensitive the Trump administration has been and has always been. But I still think the challenge is going to be for each and every one of these Democrats to try to distinguish themselves from one another. I frankly would handicap this for Elizabeth Warren. I think she has a slight advantage tonight. She's rising in the polls. She's got a lot of substance to what she has to say. So we'll see how it goes. Cory Booker's here tonight as well. And as I've said before, Cory's probably the best orator of all of the candidates. But I think you're right. I think all of them are probably going to delve even more deeply into the administration's immigration policies.
Well, you talk about, again, all the folks who are going to be there tonight. Beto O'Rourke is also going to be there, Julian Castro. I don't think, everybody's going to talk about it all day. I don't think for a second it's going to be down in the dirty and muddy because it's the first debate. Nobody wants to come off looking like a damn fool, pissing off the core Democratic base. I think if I had to use a comparison to boxing, it's going to be sort of like in the early rounds where folks are feeling themselves out. And I think the smart play, if you're a Democrat tonight, lay out your policies while also attacking Donald Trump's policies.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think people are going to get too down and dirty tonight. I spoke with the chair of the party, Tom Perez, just a while ago, and he was emphasizing how, this is fine. People should fall in love with their favorite candidate tonight. And then once everything is said and done, when it's all over with, fall in line with the nominee. He also said to me is that what he thinks people are going to find is that there is more that unites these Democrats than divides them. And he thinks that's okay, too. So I think it's going to be very, very interesting. Some people are going to be heard for the first time tonight. It really given on a stage. Some of these candidates people haven't gotten enough. I admit to you, when I came in and sat down, got off the flag, came in and sat down in the spin room and took a deep breath, I was a little overwhelmed. I mean, this is 10 people tonight, 10 people tomorrow. And, those of us who cover this can be a little bit overwhelmed. And some of my colleagues around from the other shows and networks said the same thing. We feel overwhelmed. I wonder how the voters feel. So it's a lot to take in. We'll see what happens in terms of the viewing audience, whether people are going to remain engaged for 2 hours with 10 people. We'll just have to see. But as I said, in terms of those in the top tier, there's a cluster of them tomorrow night.
Right.
Biden, Bernie Sanders, and Kamala Harris. And right now in that top tier, the one who's at the top of the tier is Elizabeth Warren. So I think a lot of eyes are going to be on her tonight. I won't tell you who said it was off the record, but another candidate indicated that candidate was pleased that she was in this tonight as opposed to against that candidate tomorrow night, because that candidate believes it's going to lead to greater scrutiny of Elizabeth Warren tonight. So we'll see.
All right, Mark Thompson, we appreciate it, man. Thanks a lot. Live from Miami.
Thank you.
Can I mention real
quick?
Yeah,
go ahead.
One of the things that'll be interesting, and especially for the challenge for Senator Warren, is her policy positions are so detailed. I mean, they're excellent. But can you get it out in 3-4.5 minutes?
She can.
That'll be the challenge.
No, and the reason I think she can is because
not just her.
Right. And I think that how she's operated in these town halls, how she is being sort of laying that foundation. But Doc, here's the real deal for me. I don't really give a damn. And here's why. I'm just being straight up. Okay, it's too many damn people. Okay, 24, 25. Joe Sistak got the hell in. I think for a lot of voters, it's like, yo, holler at me in September. I mean, this is the weed out process. So I know. I think will it be a big number of folks watching? I'm probably gonna be watching Queen Sugar.
Right.
I'm just letting y'all know. I mean, I'm just because again, and it's been really interesting because I was on the Hill TV today. I was on Fox Business, Charles Payne's show. I am not that invested in this. People keep tweeting me like, why aren't you covering this? I'm like,
right.
It's June.
Right. And
it's June and it's 25 damn people.
Right. And we know we still have months of this ahead of us. And I think you're like most people. Most people don't pay attention to the general. And by the time that comes around, most people will have forgotten what happened in the primaries. The primaries are for activists and people who are kind of the most interested. It's not for everybody. And it is a lot of people. Making light between all these people at this particular point is not going to be an easy thing to do. It's probably not a very fruitful thing to do. And I would say people can wait a little bit till the herd thins to start kind of tuning in, because they still have to get through the rest of this year. They got to get into next year. We're going to be doing this for a really long time.
And here's the piece. You're going to have another debate. You're going to have another debate
next
in
month
July.
and August.
And then it's going to be another weed out process. It's going to be a debate every single month. And again, let me know when Swalwell, when de Blasio, when Yang, Williamson, let me know when all them people not in the race, and then I'll pay attention. But I mean, because again, and all these media people going crazy, I'm sorry. I am not about to invest. And I get it. It's about to be wall-to-wall stuff. And see, y'all probably noticed. Y'all probably said, damn, they didn't get to the debate stuff until 6:57. Precisely. Because
there's nothing to say yet.
Because right, it's the same stuff, and I'm just like, y'all, I can't.
Catch the highlights in the morning. I think that'll be most people just fine. If you catch the highlights in the morning, catch the viral moments, the best exchanges, and it'll save you an hour and a half of your life.
Y'all can do all that if y'all want to. So I'm just letting y'all know right now. Tomorrow we might talk about it. We may not talk about it. But I'm just not that. I ain't getting that excited about this. To me, I'm just being straight up with y'all. It's like when two NFL teams go practice with each other. Ain't even preseason. It ain't even regular season.
You mean like those fake me out scrimmages?
It's a scrimmage. If y'all think I'm about to get excited about a scrimmage, that ain't gonna happen. It ain't gonna happen. Just let y'all know. All right. Last story here before we go. Responding to pressure from National Association of Black Journalists, CNN announced 2 hires in the last couple of weeks of folks in senior positions. This week, Marcus Mabry will be promoted to Vice President of Global Programming for CNN Digital Worldwide. Last week, Janita Dew was promoted to Senior Vice President and Chief Diversity and Inclusion Officer of Warner Media Sports and News Division. Now, why is this important? Because for the last 3 months, NABJ has been kicking Jeff Zucker's ass at CNN as to how you have no black executive producers, no black vice presidents, no black senior vice presidents, no black executive vice presidents, and no black direct reports. Now, in their announcement last week, they said Janita Dew, who is a great sister, Noah Well, who's an attorney, her mom was a prominent civil rights activist, she's going to be directly reporting to Jeff Zucker, but she's a lawyer. She has no news background. Marcus Mabry has worked at Newsweek, New York Times, wrote the book on Condoleezza Rice, Twice as Good, a great brother. He, of course, now named the vice president. But here's the piece. And CNN had this laudatory email talking about how great Marcus is. Well, why wasn't he promoted before we had to say something? See, that's the real deal here. And so don't try to front like all of a sudden you did this and it was coming down the pipeline. No, NABJ and all of the group that joined us, NAACP, Alpha Phi Alpha, Omega Psi Phi, Delta Sigma Theta, and everybody else who joined us put the pressure on y'all. This is the statement that NABJ sent out. We said NABJ members and supporting civic and civil rights organizations have made it clear that they are in full support of NABJ's ongoing campaign to call for the inclusion of black employees within the ranks of CNN's news leadership, as well as a review of CNN's hiring and promotion practices of black employees. While NABJ applauds the promotion of Mabry and Dew to digital content and diversity and inclusion leadership roles, NABJ, listen, Jeff Zucker, will continue to push for CNN to make hires and promotions in the areas of news vice presidents, senior vice presidents, executive vice presidents, and executive producers, which all have a daily and direct impact on news coverage. To not have black decision makers in these key news positions showcases a lack of commitment to diversity. We also will continue to push AT&T, which now owns CNN, to do a civil rights audit of the network. And it was in the fall. We were told by AT&T that Randall Stevenson, the CEO of AT&T, would meet with NABJ. Now, y'all know Jeff Zucker. He won't meet with us because I'm on the board. Zucker don't like me. And he wants to say it's because of the drama with Donna Brazile sending one of my questions to the Hillary Clinton campaign, which I ain't have a damn thing to do with. But now, Zucker didn't like me before that, y'all. Just want to let y'all know that. And so this is one black person. He didn't want to cross the table. And I keep trying to tell Jeff Zucker, you know we have elections in August in Miami. I'm running unopposed. Which means I'll be here for 2 more years. So just letting you know. So if you actually think that we're backing down from all this, Jeff Zucker, we're not. And I know everybody talking about how you the big wig and you all that and you know, you were at NBC and executive producer of the Today Show, 25 years old. Don't matter. Don't think we're going to sit here and be silent. And just because you named 2 black people, let me go ahead and tell you what happened in that movie Malcolm X when that happened. Remember the movie Malcolm X when the brother when they were in the hospital, actually outside the hospital, and the cop told my man Malcolm X, all right, break this up. You came, you got what you wanted. He said, no, I'm not satisfied. Jeff, don't think I'm satisfied. And NABJ is satisfied with 2 black people. No, we're not satisfied. Because you know what? We got more black people than other networks. And for all y'all out there who also been commenting on my Instagram page and Twitter page saying, why y'all big and white folks? Why can't we create our own? Well, the reality is we have created our own. I created this show. There are other black newspapers and websites. There are black cable networks. But the reality is we deserve to be at every table. The black table and the white table. And what we're not going to do is to be silent and say nothing. Because for me on this show, we're going to advocate for black folks to be in law firms, to be in hospitals, to be CEOs of Fortune 500 companies. Let me also be clear to the Democrats as well. Y'all better have a real budget to spend on black media. Don't pimp us like you normally do. I say the same thing to Hollywood. Don't play the game with us as well. We want to see black folks in key positions there as well. I want to see black folks in every single major industry because this is the year of return. We know that we have been shut out of major industries for a long time. When you look at these hedge funds out here, when you look at these things going on, well, all the billions being spent, we're not there. And also all you ad agencies. See, that's the next thing I'm about to start dealing with because see, what's happening is our black ad agencies are shrinking because where it used to be a multicultural budget, multicultural now is mainstream. So the large white firms are now taking literally the dollars that were there for black firms and now taking that money. And then the white folks have no idea that we even exist. And so all of a sudden, you're seeing a shrinking dollar from black media. Don't think I'm not going to call y'all out as well. This is why we have to have our own platforms. Because if we don't have our own platforms, who's going to tell the story? CNN has a whole media team. Brian Stetler is over the whole team. They ain't reported one time on NABJ challenging them on their diversity. Now, they'll talk about everybody else's stuff. And then we'll talk about their stuff. And that's my point. We have to understand that if we do not have our own media, then somebody else is controlling the narrative. Somebody else is controlling the story. And then we're begging somebody else to cover what we do. That cannot happen. That's why you must support Roland Martin Unfiltered. So go to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Join our Bring the Funk fan club to help us make this possible. I want to thank Doc. I want to thank Michael for being on the show. And again, we're going to keep telling the truth. This show exists because we've got to have black voices speaking truth to power and letting folks know that when you do stuff like Poolside Nick, we're going to call you out and we're going to put you on television and we're going to put you on social media. When you're these companies and you're ignoring us and treating us bad, we are going to call you out. Y'all know my journalistic model is real simple. If you do good, I'm going to talk about you. If you do bad, I'm going to talk about you. At the end of the day, I'm going to talk about you. Holla! Hey fam, I want you to like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications. Hey fam, want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered, the blackest show on all of digital, cable, and broadcast. Check out our audio podcast. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Press play.
Hey everybody, this is Sherry Shepherd. You're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered, and while he's doing Unfiltered, I'm practicing the wobble. Yes, I am. Because Roland Martin's the one, he will do it backwards, he will do it on the side. He messes everybody up when he gets into the wobble, because he doesn't know how to do it, so he does it backwards. And it just messes me up every single time. So I'm working on it. I got it. You got Roland Martin.
Hi, my name is LaToya Luckett, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's going on, everybody? It's your boy Mac Wilds, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What's up, y'all? It's Ryan Destiny, and you're watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
What up, Lana Well, and you are watching Roland Martin Unfiltered.
You want to check out Roland Martin Unfiltered? youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And subscribe to our YouTube channel. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. See that name right there? Roland Martin Unfiltered. Like, share, and subscribe to our YouTube channel. That's youtube.com/Roland S. Martin. And don't forget to turn on your notifications so when we go live, you'll know it. You want to support Roland Martin Unfiltered? Be sure to join our Bring the Funk fan club. Every dollar that you give to us supports our daily digital show. There's only one daily digital show out here that keeps it black and keep it real. It's Roland Martin Unfiltered. Support the Roland Martin Unfiltered daily digital show by going to RolandMartinUnfiltered.com. Our goal is to get 20,000 of our fans contributing $50 each for the whole year. You can make this possible. RolandMartinUnfiltered.com.